Jody and Riley are operating a snow cone stand to make some extra money over the summer. To determine the cost they will charge for large snow cones, they took a survey of 80 random people to analyze the cost versus the number of people that would buy a snow cone at that price. The data collected from the survey is compiled in the table below. So problem number 1 says, from the patterns in the table, do you think there's a relationship between the cost of the snow cones and the number of people that would purchase the snow cones at that price? Explain your reasoning and use the pattern to extend the table. Okay? Now, most people the rest of this day have done the pattern first. They've extended the table first. Did you guys do that too, or did you answer the question first? Okay? So what's the pattern in the x's? Adding 25 cents, so 225. Can you see that at all? Okay. 250, 275, 325, 350, 375, and 4. And then X, right? Okay. What's the pattern in the Y column? Down by 5s. So 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, 0. What'd you put here? Okay, so those of you who put Y, while that is the Y column, we need the equation that we would use to get the Y's from the X's, right? This is dependent, right, on the X's. So why did you say 80? Can you tell me that part? So if the cost was 0, if we went backwards 1 to get 0, this would be 80, wouldn't it? So 80. Okay, so is the change in the X's constant? Same every time? Is the change in the Y's constant? The same every time? So what kind of function would this be? Linear, right? Wouldn't this be a linear function? All right? If it's a linear function, can't we use something to the effect of y equals mx plus b? Well, Chase already told us our b. We already know that's our starting point, right? So I've got to find my slope. So I have to find my change in my y's. Remember this? Change in y's over change in x's? So what's the change in my y's? -5, right? Why would it mean -5? Because it's decreasing. Okay. What's the change in my x's? 0.25. What is -5 divided by 0.25? Anybody know any way to figure it out? Oh, we could use a calculator. I wish your math teacher would have assigned you calculators to get, like when you come in and stuff. -20. -5 divided by -0.25 is -20. So what comes down here is 80 minus 20x, because that's my slope, right? Goes beside the multiplier of x. So this crazy kid earlier was like, okay, but what I wrote was -20x plus 80. What did I say? Oh, I said, okay, good. Right? The same thing. Well, they were concerned because is this right here in slope-intercept form? No, but did I ever say it had to be in slope-intercept form? I said we could use something like this, right? Well, isn't this like this? Yeah. Okay? So, do you think there's a relationship? What is the relationship? Every time the price goes up by 25 cents, what'd you say? 5 less people will buy snow cones. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good sentence. That's a pretty good relationship. Make sure you have something similar to this. Okay, good job. Any questions about this? All right, so what about number 2? Construct a scatter plot of the data collected from the survey, representing the number of people that would purchase snow cones at the price versus the price of the snow cone. So, give me instructions. Label my axes, okay? What axis is this? X and Y, so you want them on the edge of the paper. Okay. What else goes on the x-axis? That's the cost of snow cones. So the cost. What goes along Y? Number of people. Okay, how am I going to count on my x-axis? What's my scale? 0.5? Why can't it be 0.25? Because that's how it counts on the table. I can't go far enough, can I? Okay, so 0.5, 1. Can I do this? 2, 3, 4, 5, like that? Okay. How am I going to scale my y-axis? Tens? Okay. So 0 is 80. 0.25 is 75. So like right there. Is that right? 0.25 and 75? Even though it's not on a line, is that okay? Okay, good. 0.5 is 70. 0.75 is 65. 1 is 60. Anybody starting to see a pattern here? Do I need to keep looking back at the table? Or can I go on the pattern? And I can check, right? Where's it supposed to cross the x-axis? When x is 4, it's supposed to be 0, right? Is that correct? Okay. What are the independent and dependent variables in this problem? What are they actually asking for here? Do they want you to tell them that the independent variable is x and the dependent variable is y? So they want labels, right? They want labels. So I can either look at my table, I've already labeled them there, or I can go back to my graph. Excuse me. I can either look at my graph or I can look at my table. This is going to be my x and this is going to be my y, right? So which one's independent, which one's dependent? The cost of the snow cones is independent. So which one's dependent? Before we answer number 4, which one am I going to want you to answer first? 6, right? Number 6. Why? Does it matter how we write domain and range? Yes, and it's based on if it's discrete or continuous. So let's figure out if it's discrete or continuous first and then go back and write the domain and range. Okay, so is this discrete or continuous? Can you tell me why you think it's discrete? It's just a bunch of dots. There's a good start. I could have connected them, right? But I chose not to because I didn't know if I could or not. Doesn't it make a line?
Yeah, but I remember Friday,
Can you have half of a person? No, so can I connect them? So did I make the right choice in waiting to decide if I can connect them? Yes, because I cannot connect them. Okay? So it is discrete. Because I cannot have half a person. And because it was given to me as a list of points. Right? Okay? So now let's go back and talk about the domain and range. Alright? Domain and range. So for my domain, I'm going to talk about x values, and that's just a line, a separator line. Okay? What x values am I going to talk about? If it's discrete, how do I have to write the domain? You have to list them all, right? You want to list all 16 points? Neither do I. So I wish there was a shorter way. Can I show you? Okay. We're going to say it is from, whoops, like that. Am I allowed to write the domain of a discrete function like that? No, I'm not. Right? Because that's 3.1. It was 3.1 on our list. It wasn't on our list, was it? But 3.1 is here, in between 0 and 4, isn't it? So what I have to do is I have to put a condition on it. And the condition I'm going to put on it is counting by what? 0.25. Counting by 0.25. Okay? Any questions about that? So what about the range then? What am I talking about? Y, separator line. What are my y values allowed to be? My x values were allowed to be between 0 and 4. What are my y values allowed to be? 0 and 80. If counting by 5s. As long as I have that condition there, I can write it like that, okay? Any questions about this? So is my relation increasing or decreasing? How do you know? From left to right, my graph is decreasing. It's falling, right? So number 7, is the relation a function? How do you know that the answer is yes? Passes the vertical line test, right? If I slide my pen across, it's only touching one of the dots at a time. Okay? And if you look at your table, none of your x's repeat, do they? Okay? That's the other way you know it's a function. What parent function best describes the data? Linear, right? We talked about that just a second ago. Okay? How can you determine the price at which no one would be willing to buy a snow cone according to the table? According to the table. What do you look for in the table? Look for a 0 in the Y column. Very good. How can you determine the price at which no one would be willing to buy a snow cone according to the graph? If you guys will talk, you'll get the right answer. You two that were just talking? What'd you say? Where it crosses the x-axis. And what did you say? Okay, so what's it called? The x-intercept. Okay, it's the x-intercept. So look for the x-intercept. How can you determine the price at which no one would be willing to buy a snow cone according to the algebraic generalization? Most popular question right here today has been, what is an algebraic generalization? What does it mean? It's the equation, right? So if we're just looking at the equation, how are we going to find it? Let y equal 0. Very good. Okay, so for question 9, I'm going to ask you to use some think time. Okay? I'm going to read question 9 for you. I'm going to make sure everybody understands what it means. And then I'm going to give you a couple minutes to write down an answer. And then we're going to talk about it. You remember we talked at the beginning of the year a little bit about sometimes I might get a different answer from you, and you might get a different answer as your neighbor, but because we can all three defend our answers, they're all right. This is one of those type of questions. But on this question, it's just a yes or a no. Okay? But depending on how you defend your answer, both of those answers could be right. Okay? Should Jody and Riley consider using 0 in the domain? Does everybody understand what that question's asking? What's the value for the domain here? What's the label for the domain? The cost, right? Should Jody and Riley consider using 0 as their cost? That's the question. Mark, get set, go. Who said yes? Who said no? Who said yes again? And who said no? Okay, so do you see my problem I'm having right now? Not everybody's raising their hand. I asked you to make a choice and defend it. And I told you it's possible for both of those to be right, so why aren't you making a choice? Did I take the time to make sure everybody was understanding the question before we started? So if they didn't ask, whose fault is that? Okay. So who said no? Mariah, why did you say no? Okay, so you're saying they should not use 0 as their cost because they won't make any money that way. And their whole goal, according to the instructions at the very beginning, was to make some extra money over the summer. Not only are they making extra money, or not only are they not making extra money, they had to buy all the snow cone stuff to begin with, so they're actually losing money if they charge $0, right? Who said yes? Why'd you say yes, Brandon? They would have lots of customers? So they would have a lot of customers, but are they meeting their goal? Okay, so I just want you to think about your reason a little bit more. Okay? It's not necessarily wrong, it's just maybe not quite as good as it could be. Why'd you say yes? Okay, so you're good? Okay. You want to know what I said when I answered this question the first time? I said yes. Have you ever had a business? Would you ever give food away for free in your business? When you're first starting out, what would you do? Give away samples, right? You give away samples to try to get business, and once they see how amazing your snow cones are, what are they going to do? Come back and pay, right? So I'm not saying they should consider doing this for the whole month or the whole summer, but maybe like an hour, right? Or maybe even a day, depending on, what money they had to start with. But it wouldn't be bad for a little while to get more business to come. But in the long run, for the whole summer, should they consider using 0 as their cost? No. Okay, probably not. All right, any questions about this? Okay, we're going to do the rest of the worksheet tomorrow in class. So you don't have homework. Okay, we'll do the rest of the worksheet tomorrow in class. Peace.